Friends, all of us go through moments in life when we feel tension, fear, and anxiety. Sometimes it is the pressure of work, sometimes the stress of exams, and sometimes the uncertainty of the future that makes our mind restless. At such times, it feels as if this tension is the biggest problem in our lives. But have you ever thought about where this tension actually comes from? Is it from the situation or from within our own mind? Today, we will try to understand why tension takes hold of us, how fear influences our thoughts and decisions, and how a person can rise above fear by recognizing the inner strength within. Today, we will talk about that powerful insight of Swami Vivekananda, through which a person can remain calm, focused, and fearless even in the middle of great tension. And at the end of this video, I will tell you just one single line. If you truly understand it, your anxiety may disappear forever. But first, let me tell you an uncomfortable truth. You may not like hearing this. Tension does not come from outside. It is born within us. This is the truth we often try to avoid, because blaming someone or something outside is very easy, but looking within ourselves is a little frightening. You may have heard many great teachings of Swami Vivekananda before, but if you truly understand this one line of his, half of your tension can disappear. He said, "The mind is the cause of bondage, and the mind is the cause of liberation." Now, pause for a moment. Do not just listen to this line as a quote. Try to connect it with your own life. Ask yourself a simple question. Do all people feel the same level of tension in the same situation? Do all students feel the same fear before an exam? Do all employees feel equally terrified when their boss calls them? In short, the answer is no. Have you ever noticed that one student may feel excited before an exam, while another becomes so anxious that they even fall sick? The exam is the same. The syllabus is the same. The date is the same. Then where is the difference? The difference lies in the mind. This is the place where most people make a mistake. We think the problem exists outside, but the real problem lies in the way we see things. Swami Vivekananda used to say, "Suffering does not come from situations. Suffering comes from the story we create in our own mind." Now think about it carefully. When do we actually feel tension? When something is going wrong, or when we fear that something might go wrong? In 90% of cases, the answer is the second one. We live more in the future than in the present. What if I fail? What if I lose my job? What if people start laughing at me? What if everything goes out of my control? And here's an interesting thing. We don't just think about the future. We turn the future into something frightening. We create an image of the worst possible situation. Then we add our self-respect to it. We add our ego to it. We add our family's expectations to it. And then we scare ourselves with that imaginary story. That is tension. Now, an uncomfortable question arises. Will what you are imagining really happen? Answer yourself honestly. Most of the time, the answer is no. Then why doesn't the tension disappear? Because the mind has developed a habit of living in fear. Swami Vivekananda called this mental slavery. It means that instead of the mind being our servant, it becomes our master. And when the mind becomes the master, every day it starts frightening you with anxiety over small matters, restlessness over small uncertainties, self-doubt after small failures. Slowly, what happens? We start believing that abnormal tension is normal. Now, here's an interesting but serious question. Has it ever happened to you that suddenly your mind feels very heavy for no particular reason? There is no problem in front of you. No bad news has arrived, yet the mind feels restless. Why does this happen? Because the mind is stuck in a movie about the future, a movie that might never even be released. Swami Vivekananda used to say, "If the mind cannot be brought under control, it eventually becomes our greatest enemy." This may sound spiritual, but in reality, it is pure psychology. In today's language, we could say, tension is not the result of problems, it is a problem of perception. Now listen to another observation. People who have seen a lot in life, who have fallen many times, who have faced defeat again and again, they often become calmer. Why? Because they realize one important truth. Not every fear becomes reality, and not every problem lasts forever. But when we are young or inexperienced, every problem feels like the end of the world. Swami Vivekananda was referring to this immature mind. He used to say, "Strengthen your mind, otherwise life will frighten you every day." Now think about this for a moment. If tension truly solved problems, then the most successful people in the world would also be the most stressed. But what is the reality? The calmest people make the clearest decisions. This means tension is not helping you. Instead, it is making you weaker. And the most dangerous part is this. We start believing that tension itself is a form of responsibility. We say, if I don't take tension, people will think I'm careless. If I don't worry, people will think I don't care. But this is a big illusion. Swami Vivekananda said, worry and responsibility are not the same thing. Responsibility comes from strength, while worry comes from fear. And when fear dominates the mind, our ability to think clearly disappears. Now listen to the most interesting part. If tension does not come from outside, if tension does not come from situations, if tension does not come from the future, then what does it mean? It means tension can be reduced. It means tension can be controlled. It means tension is not your master. And this is exactly where the teaching of Swami Vivekananda begins. But his teaching is not like ordinary motivational talk. He does not say, just think positive, everything will be fine. Instead, he holds up a mirror in front of you. And what he says next may hurt your ego, but it brings freedom to your mind. Swami Vivekananda once said, fear is death. Fear is sin. Fear is hell. Pause for a moment. This is not a poetic line. It is not an exaggeration either. It is a harsh reality. Because fear is not just an emotion. Fear is a slow poison that quietly hollows out your thoughts, your strength, and your entire life from within. We usually take fear very casually. We say, feeling a little fear is normal. Without fear, people would become reckless. But Swami Vivekananda completely disagreed with this idea. According to him, fear was the greatest crime against oneself. Now ask yourself a question. When was the last time you felt afraid? Was it fear of failure? Fear of what people might think? Or fear of the uncertainty of the future? Now ask yourself a second question. The thing you were afraid of, did it actually happen? For most people, the answer will be no. And that is the most surprising truth. We fear things that most of the time never even happen. Yet why doesn't fear leave us? Vivekananda said, fear does not come from outside. Fear is born within. Fear arises when we start seeing ourselves as small. When we start believing, I am weak, I cannot do this, I might fail. And the moment we accept this belief, every problem begins to look like a monster. Think about a small child. The child is in a dark room. In reality, there is nothing in the room, yet the child is trembling. Why? Because the child's mind has created ghosts in the darkness. The problem is not the darkness. The problem is imagination. Exactly the same thing happens with adults. The only difference is this. children are afraid of darkness, while adults are afraid of the future. Swami Vivekananda described fear as Maya, something that appears real but is not actually real. And this illusion becomes most dangerous when you start believing it to be the truth. What does fear teach us? First, self-doubt. You begin to think, can I really do this? Am I good enough? Am I making a mistake? And the moment doubt enters your mind, your ability to make decisions becomes slow. You keep thinking, you keep analyzing, you keep planning, but you don't take action. This leads to the third effect, action paralysis. You know what you should do, yet you don't do it. Why? Because fear whispers, stop, stay safe. Now listen to a hard truth. Fear never moves you forward. Fear only keeps you stuck exactly where you already are. Swami Vivekananda used to say, he who fears is dead. Not physically, but mentally. His growth stops, his potential gets buried, and his life slowly turns into a life of compromise. Now, an important question arises. If fear is an illusion, then why do we feel it so strongly? Because we have never truly experienced our own strength. Vivekananda's entire philosophy stands on one idea: you are not weak. He said that infinite power exists within you, but you have forgotten who you really are. And when a person forgets himself, fear captures him very easily. Think about one thing. When you feel confident about something, do you feel afraid? No. Fear appears only where confidence is absent, and confidence does not come from outside. Confidence comes from believing in yourself. Now observe one more thing. Who feels the most fear? The person who is afraid of losing something. The fear of losing respect, the fear of losing status, the fear of losing image. In other words, the root of fear is often our ego. Swami Vivekananda used to say that as long as ego exists, fear will also exist, because the ego is always trying to protect itself. But the day you tell your mind, whatever happens, I will face it, that is the day fear begins to lose its power. This is where his secret principle begins. He said, do not fight fear, observe it. When fear arises, ask yourself, what exactly am I afraid of? Is this fear really real? Even if the worst possible thing happens, will I truly not be able to survive it? The moment you start asking these questions, fear begins to weaken, because fear cannot tolerate questioning. And there is another important point. The day you begin taking action even in the presence of fear, you will realize that fear is actually just a guard standing at a door. On the other side of that door lies freedom. That is why Swami Vivekananda repeatedly said, be fearless. This is not just a motivational phrase, it is a strategy for living life. Because only a fearless person can think clearly, make the right decisions, and live with their full strength. But then he said something even deeper. Let go of control. At first, this may sound strange, but once you understand it, tension begins to decrease on its own. In life, we want control over everything. We want results to happen exactly the way we want. We want people to behave the way we expect. We want the future to follow our plans. And the moment this control slips out of our hands, tension begins to rise.
Swami Vivekananda, quoting the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, said, "You have the right to perform your actions, but not to the fruits of those actions." In other words, you can control your effort, your honesty, and your intention, but you cannot control the results, other people's reactions, or the timing of life. Yet we keep trying to control exactly those things that are not in our hands. And that is when frustration, anxiety, and anger begin to appear. He used to say that where there is expectation, there is tension. Because expectation means trying to bind the future according to our wishes. And the future never likes to be bound. So if a person simply gives their best effort and lets go of the desire to control the result, the mind becomes much lighter and concentration on the work increases. After this, he spoke about ego. Swami Vivekananda clearly said that ego is the root of suffering. Many times we are not afraid of failure itself. Instead, we fear that our respect or identity might be damaged in front of others. But the truth is that people in the world are so busy with their own lives that they do not think about us nearly as much as we imagine. Swami Vivekananda used to say, "A small mind worries about small matters. A great mind accepts great responsibilities." So true strength does not lie in ego, but in clear thinking. When ego becomes smaller, a person becomes ready to learn. And where learning begins, fear cannot survive. He also said that growing in life does not mean increasing social status, but expanding one's consciousness. When a person limits themselves only to a job, a result, or an identity, their ego becomes fragile. But when someone sees themselves as a learner, a seeker, and a continuously evolving human being, their mind becomes far more flexible, and tension begins to decrease. Finally, Swami Vivekananda spoke about a very important principle: mental discipline. He knew that the mind does not change simply by listening or reading. The mind changes through practice. That is why he said that we must practice bringing the mind under control every day. Because if you start building a boat during a storm, sinking is almost certain. So before the storms of life arrive, the mind must be made strong and disciplined. The mind has to be strengthened beforehand. Swami Vivekananda used to say, "Remind yourself every day, I am not weak. Infinite power exists within me." Many people laugh at this and say this is just positive thinking. But in reality, it is not merely positive thinking. It is training the mind. Just as we go to the gym to train the body, lift weights and strengthen our muscles, in the same way, the mind also must be trained regularly. The problem is that we think a lot about physical fitness, but we rarely think about training the mind. And then we wonder why tension goes beyond our control. For Swami Vivekananda, meditation was not a luxury or a spiritual fashion. He considered it a necessity. Because if the mind is not controlled, it naturally runs towards fear, comparison, and worries about the future. And if you do not control your own mind, someone else will. Social media, news, other people's opinions, and constant comparisons. Then the mind is no longer truly yours. He used to say, "Show your mind the right direction every day, otherwise it will lead you in the wrong direction." Imagine this. You wake up in the morning and sit quietly for just 5 minutes. No phone, no noise, no distractions, just you and your mind. What will happen at first? The mind will become restless. It will make excuses. It will say that this is boring. And that itself proves how undisciplined the mind is. But if you continue this practice every day, gradually the mind begins to learn calmness. And once the mind becomes calm, the level of tension naturally begins to decrease. Swami Vivekananda also said, "Silence is the greatest teacher." In silence, a person begins to realize how much fear is stored within and how many unnecessary thoughts keep circulating in the mind. And as soon as awareness appears, control slowly begins to return. The day you learn to observe your own mind, the mind will no longer be able to control you. Thoughts will still come, but you will not drown in them. Even if thoughts of failure appear, you will not panic, because you will understand that not every thought is the truth. Swami Vivekananda repeatedly said, "Do not search for strength outside. The strength already exists within you. But that strength reveals itself only when you work on it every day." Daily mental discipline does not mean meditating for hours. Rather, it means practicing a little every day, talking to yourself, challenging your fears, and reminding the mind that it is not the master, it is the servant. Many people ask how long it takes to see results. Many become impatient. They want to see change within 2 or 3 days. But if the mind has remained uncontrolled for years, it will also take time to bring it under control. Swami Vivekananda used to say, "The one who has patience is the true victor." In the first few days, you will simply notice how many times your mind wanders. After a few weeks, you will see that your reactions slowly begin to decrease. And after a few months, in the same situation where you once broke down, you will not react the same way. You will feel a quiet calmness within. He also said that silence is the greatest teacher. In silence, a person begins to realize how much fear is stored within and how many unnecessary thoughts keep circulating in the mind. And as soon as awareness appears, control slowly begins to return. The day you learn to observe your own mind, the mind will no longer be able to control you. Thoughts will still come, but you will not drown in them. Even if thoughts of failure appear, you will not panic, because you will understand that not every thought is the truth. Swami Vivekananda repeatedly said, "Do not search for strength outside. The strength already exists within you. But that strength reveals itself only when you work on it every day." Daily mental discipline does not mean meditating for hours. Rather, it means practicing a little every day, talking to yourself, challenging your fears, and reminding the mind that it is not the master, it is the servant. Many people ask how long it takes to see results. Many become impatient. They want to see change within 2 or 3 days. But if the mind has remained uncontrolled for years, it will also take time to bring it under control. Swami Vivekananda used to say, "The one who has patience is the true victor." In the first few days, you will simply notice how many times your mind wanders. After a few weeks, you will see that your reactions slowly begin to decrease. And after a few months, in the same situation where you once broke down, you will not react the same way. You will feel a quiet calmness within. He also said that silence is the greatest teacher. In silence, a person begins to realize how much fear is stored within and how many unnecessary thoughts keep circulating in the mind. And as soon as awareness appears, control slowly begins to return. The day you learn to observe your own mind, the mind will no longer be able to control you. Thoughts will still come, but you will not drown in them. Even if thoughts of failure appear, you will not panic, because you will understand that not every thought is the truth. Swami Vivekananda repeatedly said, "Do not search for strength outside. The strength already exists within you. But that strength reveals itself only when you work on it every day." Daily mental discipline does not mean meditating for hours. Rather, it means practicing a little every day, talking to yourself, challenging your fears, and reminding the mind that it is not the master, it is the servant. Many people ask how long it takes to see results. Many become impatient. They want to see change within 2 or 3 days. But if the mind has remained uncontrolled for years, it will also take time to bring it under control. Swami Vivekananda used to say, "The one who has patience is the true victor." In the first few days, you will simply notice how many times your mind wanders. After a few weeks, you will see that your reactions slowly begin to decrease. And after a few months, in the same situation where you once broke down, you will not react the same way. You will feel a quiet calmness within. He also said that silence is the greatest teacher. In silence, a person begins to realize how much fear is stored within and how many unnecessary thoughts keep circulating in the mind. And as soon as awareness appears, control slowly begins to return. The day you learn to observe your own mind, the mind will no longer be able to control you. Thoughts will still come, but you will not drown in them. Even if thoughts of failure appear, you will not panic, because you will understand that not every thought is the truth. Swami Vivekananda repeatedly said, "Do not search for strength outside. The strength already exists within you. But that strength reveals itself only when you work on it every day." Daily mental discipline does not mean meditating for hours. Rather, it means practicing a little every day, talking to yourself, challenging your fears, and reminding the mind that it is not the master, it is the servant. Many people ask how long it takes to see results. Many become impatient. They want to see change within 2 or 3 days. But if the mind has remained